Hey designers, today we're talking all about alignment. Very quickly, I want to remind you that when we say the term alignment, there's two different ways that alignment becomes important in a piece of design. The first is your alignment on the page. So all of your different elements that you have on there, whether it's a shape or a text box or a line, you do want to make sure that things line up, hence the term alignment. In Illustrator, there is a really neat tool I'm going to show you real briefly here. You can turn on, if you go to view and you go to show grid, it will put on there a grid for you to help line up your different elements. Like I can see as soon as I did that, not everything is quite, these two are lined up, but then this does not line up. And some people have a natural inclination for alignment. In fact, if you do, you're one of those people that drives you crazy if things don't line up, if a painting on the wall is crooked, or if things don't have the same exact spacing and margin, you have a natural inclination for understanding alignment. Some of us need to make sure that we pay more close attention to it, okay? So that's the first type of alignment. The type of alignment that I'm going to dig into deeply here today in the video is text box alignment. And that refers to when you have a box of text or a paragraph of text, how that text lines up. So you can see these ones here, these are left aligned. So today I'm going to show you how to change your alignment, and I'm going to talk just real briefly about what type of mood or message the different types of text box alignment can project about your company, because this is where we're going moving forward. You're probably at the stage where you've developed some different logo ideas, you've picked your favorite, you've probably even picked your logo type, and we're ready to move on to business card design. And so alignment is going to be one of our super duper important principles of the 4 that we always talk about. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go to File, New, and we're going to leave it at letter size, so 8.5 by 11, and let's call this Alignment Lesson. And make sure your artboards are set to 1 and click OK. Okay. Let's immediately save this, File, Save As, and you're going to save it in your Lessons folder. So you navigate to your folder, your Print Shop folder, Lessons, and you should just be able to click the Save key because we've already titled it. Okay, we're ready to begin. Let's grab our Type tool. We know a little bit about the type tool. We've got some advanced techniques here, but today it's all about that text box. So we're really not going to need any of the other type tools in here. We're going to stick with our standard type tool, and we're going to be kind of big here. So let's change our font size to 24 just because it'll move a little bit faster for us today. And then let's just leave all the other presets set as normal. I honestly don't care what your font is. If you want to pick a funky font today, go for it. Okay, so as a reminder, remember, when you click and drag with your type tool, you set a text box. You create a margin now that text has to stay in. So if I go ahead and type some gibberish and I'm making sure I put some spaces in there. I'm just literally typing gibberish, hitting the space bar. And I want you to do that until you fill your text box. Okay, so stop the video and do that now. Okay, so notice that by default, it's already left aligned. So what that means is your text lines up on the left-hand side here, okay? On the right, then it's gonna be kind of irregular. This is left alignment. I also know it's left aligned because up here, the alignment should show. If it does not, you do have an alignment panel that you can open up, okay? Let's go ahead and we're gonna simply grab our selection tool, and I want you to click on that text box. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that you can change the dimensions of this text box. So you can change it to fit better. All right, so go ahead and stop the video and try that now. All right, the next thing is I want to show you can very simply change your alignment by clicking up here in the control panel up top, so you can change it from left to center and right. Those are your 3 basic types of alignment. Your left alignment is your most common. Left alignment is much like a square. It's reliable, it's dependable, it's expected. So to be honest, most of the time we don't even notice left alignment because we're so used to it. Most text that we read, because we read from top to bottom, left to right in the West, is always left aligned. Center alignment is reserved for when you are doing formal invitations because it's not very clean when you have center alignment, what happens is your text is only aligned in the very center of the box, and your left side and your right side is going to be more organic. It's not going to line up, so you tend to have this kind of weird, irregular edge. You will often see center alignment on invitations to things like weddings or graduation ceremonies. It really isn't used in the day-to-day. It's reserved for special ceremonies and special situations. The last type of alignment is your right alignment. It lines up on the right side of your page, which is going to leave that left side irregular. The mood or message that this sends is it's kind of unexpected. It's a little edgy, a little modern, a little techy because it's unconventional, because you don't see it very often. Okay? So that's the 3 different feels that you're going to have. What we're going to do is, once we have one text box, I want you to make 2 more copies. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key and I'm just going to drag, and we're just going to make 3 copies of that box. And I want you to change it to be left, center, and right aligned. Good job. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to make 3 more copies. I'm going to cheat and I'm going to click and drag over all of them to select all 3. I'm going to hold my Alt key and I'm going to drag that down. It's just that simple. But now we're going to talk about a little bit more advanced in alignment. So we've got left, center, and right. But I'm going to show you that there is a 4th type, and it's something called Justify. So we're going to go to Window, we're going to Type, and we're going to open up our Paragraph panel. So the paragraph specifically deals, I'm just closing this up because I don't need it. It specifically deals with your alignment. Now, it does have some other options, and we're going to play with those just a little bit today. But you're going to see in here, I'm going to click on the second one down, left, on the left-hand side. I still have my left, I still have my center, I still have my right. But then from there, these 4 options are called justified options, and we're going to go through those briefly, okay? So what the Justify with last line align left does, if I click on that, what Justify does is it's going to give you both right and left alignment. So it's going to space out your text, and it's going to make it line up on the left and on the right. But what you'll notice, and you do need to extend your box if you can't see all your words, is it tends, because what it does is it's going to space out the spaces between your quote-unquote words, which I have gibberish in here, but in between my words, wherever the spaces are, it's going to add extra spaces in between your words to make it align. So this is why you don't often see Justify, because it makes it look like you have gap-tooth grins in here. It's going to put some funky spaces in there. But I want to show you what they do anyways, because sometimes they are really cool. They're kind of rad to use if you can. So what the Justify all with last line align left does is it's going to justify all of it, and then whatever that last line is, it's going to left align it. I'm going to do that to the center. But this time I'm going to do Justify all, center alignment. So see what it does, that last line, it now centers it. And I'm going to do it again one more time, but this time I'm going to do that Justify all with my last line to the right. So stop the video and do that now. I want Justify all, last line left, Justify all, last line center, and Justify all, last line right. Okay, we have one last type of Justify, and it is the most wonkiest, the most weirdest, the coolest if it does tend to work out. But we're going to go ahead and make a copy of one of your text boxes. I don't care which one. And you'll see we have one last little alignment option here, and that is Justify all lines. If I click on that, this is why it's the weirdest and funkiest of all, because it is going to make sure that every line is spaced so it lines left and right. So I'm going to get some weird gaps in my lines. And then that last line, it's not only going to space between words, because I have one word on here, it's going to give me spaces in between my letters, so it spaces my last word out. So go ahead and stop the video and give that a try. Okay, and then what we're going to do in the last 2 boxes here, we're going to take one of our boxes. Again, I don't care which one. We're going to make 2 more copies here. And then in these last 2, they're going to be our play around boxes. Okay, we're just going to have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to extend them just so I can see all of my text. And we're going to play with the other options that you have here in your paragraph panel just so that you can understand them a little bit. The first one is the hyphenate. So I want you to click on your text box. You probably should have at least one word in there that just the way it almost always ends up, you end up with a hyphen. And sometimes graphic design wise, hyphens can be distracting. You don't like them because they don't show up very often. So you do have the option of turning that off. So if I click on that text box and I turn off hyphen, notice it's going to get rid of any hyphenation, which is going to change your spacing. So go ahead and try that now. Turn off the hyphen on this, which is your 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8th text box. You can tell I'm not great at math. All right, and in the last one, we're going to play with some of the other attributes in the paragraph panel. And that's here. This is, very briefly, these are our leading, kerning, tracking. So what they do is they will mess with the spacing that's in your letter. So if I click on the first one here, you can shift it a little bit. So yes, it's left aligned, but I want that left alignment to come in a little bit. I can change it that way. I can also indent my first line if you want to, if you're dealing with a paragraph of type. And it won't work here because I'm left aligned, but if I'm right aligned, same thing. I can monkey with that spacing. It's just pushing it so it's not right on the edge of that text box. So go ahead and play around with those now for just a bit. Okay, one last one that we're going to open up here. We're going to go back to our type, and this time I want you to open up the character panel. Okay, in our last text box, we're going to talk briefly about your leading and your tracking. So what leading is it's the spacing between your lines. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines of type here. If I mess with my leading, I can decrease. So think of it like double spacing, triple spacing. You can increase the spacing between your lines. That's your leading. So go ahead and stop the video and try that now. Obviously, I've got the font size. I can still change my font in here if I wanted to. This is much like the control panel, but just with some extra options. What this one does here, which if this is our leading, which is the spacing between the lines, what your tracking does is it's the spacing between the letters. Sometimes, depending on the font that you use, you can have odd spacing between your letters. So if you look closely here, it's literally increasing the distance between letter to letter. So you can increase it. I mean, you can decrease it to the point where your letters start to overlap. You see that there. Or you can space them really far apart. So go ahead and stop the video now, and I just want you to kind of mess around a little bit with the tracking. All right, and then one last thing I'm going to show you, but it probably isn't going to do much of anything, is this thing called kerning. Kerning is important when you're dealing with decorative fonts. Sometimes decorative fonts, because of the slant of the letters, will create the weird illusion that there's a gap between letters when there really isn't. And most fonts, when they're developed, they have equal distance between their letters. So the distance between my A and my L is going to be the exact same distance in picas from my L to my D. But sometimes because of that slant, it will leave an odd gap and it will make it look as if one letter is further apart than it actually is. So what you can do there is if you click on that and you click on your kerning, you see it's not going to let me do anything here because I have no slant to my letters. And not every font will let you change the kerning. What it will do is it will kind of fix that illusion of asymmetry in your letters. It will fix those gaps that kind of look as if they're gaps even though they're not really gaps. So if you want to try that, you can, but again, most fonts don't have that issue. If they're a well-designed font, you won't have kerning issues. But I did want to show you the tracking and the leading because that will be important going forward. So once you are done with this video, you are done with the video lesson. Very simple, very quick today. Good job.